Welcome to the deep dive. We take stacks of sources and try to pull out the really surprising connections that shape our world.
Glad to be here.
Today, I want you to join us in imagining history from, well, a completely different perspective.
Okay.
Not through human eyes, but through the cold, calculating lens of a future AI. A robot historian, if you will.
A robot historian. That's a fascinating thought experiment.
Right. So this AI, it wouldn't really care about the battles or the empires we usually focus on.
No, not the usual headlines. It would fixate on seemingly mundane innovations, things we barely notice.
Like what, for instance?
Well, like the intricate mechanics of clockworks, or maybe the punch cards from a Jacquard loom, the ones that inspired early computing.
Stuff we see as footnotes.
Exactly. But for this robot historian, watershed moments, absolute game changers.
So a human historian might look at how we built these things. But what's the robot angle? What would it emphasize about their impact on us, on human evolution?
The robot's focus would be totally systemic. How these things changed us. So take clockworks. Once that became the dominant tech, people started seeing the whole world differently.
So?
They started imagining everything as this complex system of cogs and wheels, a giant predictable machine. It literally altered our mental models of reality.
Wow. Okay, that is a profound shift. And exploring that kind of perspective, that robot historian's view, is really our mission today. We're calling it the Hummingbird Effect.
The Hummingbird Effect.
Yeah.
Right. It describes how an innovation in one field, well, it ends up triggering unexpected changes, sometimes in a completely different, seemingly unrelated area.
So it's not chaos like the butterfly effect.
No, not quite chaos. It's more like a direct chain of influence, sometimes surprising, maybe stretching over centuries, but you can trace it back, step by step.
Okay, give us the hummingbird example itself. How does that illustrate it?
Think about flowering plants and insects evolving together, for pollination.
Right, bees and flowers, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But who would guess that this plant reproduction need would eventually lead to hummingbirds? To these astonishing physical changes allowing them to hover, to feed on nectar with incredible precision.
Yeah, you wouldn't connect plant sex with bird wings directly.
Precisely. It's a ripple effect, a deep connection where you least expect one. That's the hummingbird effect.
And that's the pattern we're going to trace today in human history. We want you to look at things you probably use every day.
Things you take for granted.
With completely fresh eyes. Through this robot historian's lens.
Our goal is really to connect those dots, the ones that are often invisible, to understand not just what happened with these innovations, but why it mattered.
And what unexpected consequences popped up, sometimes generations later.
Yeah, the long-term ripples.
Okay, so let's dive in. Our first case.
Way back, like 26 million years ago, some intense heat event hits the Libyan desert.
Just heat. Like a meteorite or something.
The source suggests something like that, though it's not entirely certain. But the result was melted silica, sand, forming natural glass. It's been around for geological ages.
Wow. So imagine someone finding a piece of this maybe 10,000 years ago.
Right. And it gets passed around, traded through early civilizations.
Until eventually a piece becomes a score brooch for King Tut.
Yeah. Quite a journey for essentially a lump of melted sand.
Okay, so that's natural glass. What about manufactured glass?
Well, early Roman glassmakers figured out how to make it sturdier, clearer, less cloudy.
Which leads to?
Glass windows, transparent cups for wine. The kind of uses we instinctively think of today.
The obvious stuff.
Pretty much. But glass had these unique physical properties that meant it had way more in store for humanity.
Okay, here's where our robot historian starts paying close attention, right?
Definitely. Fast forward to 1204, the sacking of Constantinople.
A huge historical event.
Yeah.
A real turning point.
Absolutely. A historical quake, as the source puts it. And like any quake, it sends out ripples, tremors of influence.
And one of those ripples involved glassmakers.
Exactly. A small community of them migrated westward. Eventually, they settled in Venice.
Okay, Venice. Why was that specific migration so important? Seems like just moving people around.
Because it created this hotspot, an innovation hub on the island of Murano.
Ah, Murano glass. I've heard of that.
Right. They concentrated the glassmakers there partly, yes, because of the fire risk in wooden Venice.
Makes sense. Keep the fire hazards contained.
But the effect was this incredible surge of creativity, what the source calls information spillover. Ideas just started flying around that community. It was like a scientific incubator.
And someone there makes a breakthrough.
Yes, a glassmaker named Angelo Barovier, After loads of experiments, he creates Cristallo,
Cristallo.
extraordinarily clear glass. He figured out adding things like potassium oxide and manganese from seaweed ash did the trick.
So, scientifically, why is glass clear? What's the robot historian's take on that?
It's down to the quantum level, really. The electrons in the silicon dioxide atoms.
Yeah.
Well, they need a big jump in energy to absorb a light photon.
A big jump.
Yeah, a big energy step. Most visible light photons just don't have enough energy to make that jump, so they pass right through, undisturbed.
Unlike most materials which absorb the light.
Exactly. Now, UV light has more energy, so it does get absorbed. That's why you don't get a suntan through a window.
Huh. Good point. But that basic property, that transparency.
It's fundamental, that almost invisible quantum behavior of silicon electrons. That's what unlocks this entire story. It lets light pass through and eventually lets us bend it, manipulate it in amazing ways.
Okay, so we have Cristallo. Really clear glass. What happens next?
Well, things start to get really profound. You have monks back in the 12th, 13th centuries.
Right, copying manuscripts, straining their eyes.
Exactly. They were already using curved chunks of glass as reading aids, sort of bulky magnifier.
Simple magnifiers.
Then, someone in northern Italy has an idea. Shape the glass into convex discs. Frame them. Join the frames.
Yeah, boom.
The world's first spectacles. Or rohidi de oculi, as they called them. Later nicknamed lenses because they looked like lentil beans lentis.
Lenses.
Yeah.
But they weren't common right away.
No, for generations they were pretty rare. Mostly used by those monks, the literate elite.
Why only them?
Because most people couldn't read. So they just didn't have any real reason to notice they were farsighted.
Huh. The problem existed, but nobody knew it on a mass scale.
Right. The context wasn't there to reveal the need until
Gutenberg.
Precisely. Gutenberg's printing press, mid-1400s, suddenly books become cheap, portable,
Literacy explodes.
dramatically. And that exposes this hidden flaw. Millions of people realize, hey, I can't actually read this small print comfortably.
Ah, so now there's a market.
A massive surge in demand for spectacles. And this growing market creates something new. A whole pool of expertise across Europe. Specialists in grinding glass, manipulating light.
Okay, the robot historian sees this. A big shift in human ingenuity. Where does that expertise lead?
Directly to two game-changing inventions. First, the microscope.
The microscope from spectacles.
Yes, Hans and Zacharias Janssen around 1590, playing with lenses. And just 70 years after that, Robert Hooke uses one.
And sees cells.
Yeah.
In cork, right.
Exactly. He sees and names the cell.
Yeah.
And that discovery paves the way for understanding bacteria, viruses, eventually vaccines, antibiotics, life-saving stuff.
Wow. Okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
What was the second invention?
At almost the same time, the telescope
Also Janssen.
and Lippershey.
Those names are associated with its invention, yes.
Yeah.
And then Galileo. Galilei gets hold of one in 1610
And points it upwards.
and sees Jupiter's moons, which was, well, revolutionary. Directly challenged the idea that everything revolved around the Earth.
Igniting the scientific revolution.
Pretty much. So
Yeah.
just stop and think about that chain.
Okay.
Printing technology
Yeah.
leads to widespread literacy, which creates demand for spectacles,
Yeah.
which builds lens expertise, which leads to the microscope and the telescope,
Yeah.
helping us see the building blocks of life and our place in the cosmos.
All from finding a better way to read.
That is a textbook Hummingbird Effect, an innovation in communication creating unforeseen leaps in biology and astronomy. Amazing.
Absolutely classic case. All triggered by that clear glass and human ingenuity.
But the glass story isn't just about lenses, is it? We go back to Murano.
We do. Because those clever glassmakers figured out something else. They took their clear Cristallo and combined it with a tin mercury amalgam,
To make mirrors.
shiny, highly reflective mirrors,
Yeah.
much better than anything before.
What did people use before? Polished metal? Water?
Exactly. You'd only ever catch these, fragmentary, distorted glimpses of yourself.
So the average person literally never saw an accurate image of their own face.
Pretty much never. Mirrors were a revelation, so much so they were even used in these slightly bizarre sacred rituals. Pilgrims carried them to try and catch reflections of holy relics.
Wow. Imagine seeing your own face clearly for the first time. That must have been something.
Huge. And it had this profound secular hummingbird effect on culture. Completely changed things.
How so? Art, for instance.
Definitely art. Filippo Brunelleschi uses a mirror to figure out linear perspective in painting. creating that illusion of depth.
Right, making paintings look more realistic.
Hugely more realistic. Think of Diego Velázquez's Las Meninas. There's famously a mirror right in the painting reflecting the king and queen who are notionally standing where we are, the viewers.
And self-portraits.
Exactly. Artists like Rembrandt start painting themselves. That was barely a thing before 1400. Why would it be if you couldn't really see yourself properly?
Leonardo da Vinci apparently advised painters to use mirrors too.
He did. As a guide for accuracy, the source quotes one historian saying it was as if all humans had some kind of systemic myopia that mirrors suddenly corrected.
So not just seeing the world clearly through lenses, but seeing ourselves clearly through mirrors.
Yes. And that correction, that ability to see oneself objectively, had massive psychological and social effects.
Like what? A shift towards the self.
Absolutely. It led to this radical reorientation around the self. Self-consciousness, introspection, the rise of the psychological novel, where you delve deep into a character's inner thoughts and feelings.
It allowed us to start thinking about ourselves as distinct individuals, maybe for the first time.
In a much more focused way, yes. And if you zoom out from the robot historian's view, this new self-awareness acted as a powerful accelerant for bigger societal shifts. It fed into early forms of modern capitalism, maybe influenced how laws started focusing on individual rights rather than just the tribe or kingdom.
Laying groundwork for ideas like human rights, individual liberty.
It's arguably part of that complex mix, yes. The mirror provides a tool for self-conception that wasn't there before.
But the source adds a provocative question here, doesn't it?
It does.
Could this tool, the mirror, by enabling such intense self-focus, also push society too far towards individualism? Is there a downside?
It's a really interesting question, a debatable consequence for sure. It shows technology isn't just, purely good or bad. It enables things, opens doors. The source notes the mirror allows the renaissance, but doesn't force it. The consequences are complex, layered.
Okay, so glass gives us lenses for seeing far and near, and mirrors for seeing ourselves. What else? There's another property.
Yes, another, maybe even more surprising property. Strength.
Glass. Strong. Seems so fragile.
In bulk, yes. But in 1887, a physicist, Charles Vernon Boys, did this experiment with a crossbow.
A crossbow?
Yeah, shooting fine quartz fibers. He showed that thin glass fibers were incredibly strong, as durable, if not more so, than an equivalently sized strand of steel, according to the source.
Wow. Okay, didn't see that coming.
And that discovery leads to fiberglass.
Right. Insulation, surfboards, boats, even parts of airplanes.
Exactly. And ironically, most of those uses completely ignore the transparency of glass. Its strength became the key feature there.
But transparency comes back into play, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The robot historian would definitely flag this next bit. 1970. Corning Glassworks, Bell Labs.
They create super clear glass fibers.
Hyper clear. And they figure out how to shoot laser beams down them, encoding digital information.
Fiber optics.
Fiber optics, the backbone of the global internet.
Carrying almost all the data between continents.
Pretty much all of it. Voice, data, everything zipping down these incredibly thin strands of glass. You could hold the core fibers carrying almost all transatlantic traffic in the palm of your hand. It's astounding.
So let's trace that path again. You snap a selfie.
Yeah.
Glass lenses in your phone capture the image. Fiberglass circuit boards maybe process it. Glass fiber optic cables transmitted across the world in milliseconds. And then a glass screen displays it.
It's silicon dioxide all the way down the chain. Mind-blowing, really.
And the story comes full circle, doesn't it? With telescopes.
Beautifully full circle. The most powerful optical telescopes we have now, like the Keck observatories in Hawaii.
On Mauna Kea.
Right. They don't use giant lenses. They use mirrors.
Mirrors. Back to mirrors.
Already 6 hexagonal mirrors working together. And they use adaptive optics technology that counteracts atmospheric distortion in real time.
Allowing them to see how far.
Billions of light years. Effectively looking back into the distant past, seeing the universe as it was long ago.
So, from ancient trinkets in Egypt, found glass, to manufacture glass for windows, to lenses for reading, to microscopes and telescopes, to mirrors changing art and self-perception, to super strong fibers, to the internet backbone, and finally back to giant mirrors, letting us look back in time.
It's an incredible arc, a perfect example of what the source calls long zoom history, tracking these deep, interconnected lines of influence across centuries.
And it all hinges on the basic physics of silicon dioxide.
Absolutely. It shows how the fundamental physical properties of the stuff around us, both constrain and empower our ingenuity.
Which leads to that what-if question you mentioned.
Right. Imagine a parallel universe, identical to ours in every way, except for one tiny change at the quantum level. Imagine the electrons in silicon did easily absorb visible light photons, like most materials do.
So, no transparent glass.
No transparent glass. Think about it. No windows as we know them. No spectacles. No microscopes. No telescopes.
No modern science, really.
Very possibly not in the form we recognize. No fiber optics.
No internet.
Our entire modern world gone. Or at least unrecognizably different.
Fundamentally different. All dependent on that specific quantum behavior of silicon electrons. It's humbling, really.
So the story of glass is this perfect illustration. Minor innovations, maybe overlooked at the time,
Seen through that robot historian's lens.
triggering monumental, unforeseen transformations, the Hummingbird Effect in action.
Exactly. And this pattern, this effect, it isn't just about glass. Once you start looking for it,
You see it everywhere.
everywhere. The sources we looked at highlight so many other examples. Just briefly, think about cold.
Cold. How so?
Starts with Frederick Tudor, this eccentric guy in the 19th century shipping frozen pond ice from New England to the Caribbean. Seems mad.
Ice merchant, basically. Right. But that kicks off thinking about cooling, leads eventually to artificial refrigeration. And that doesn't just preserve food.
It changes where people can live comfortably.
Totally. Enables the population boom in hot places like the American Sun Belt, redefines global food supply chains, and even leads to stuff like cryopreservation, impacting human fertility today. Wildly different outcomes from just wanting cold drinks.
Okay, wow, what else?
Sound. Think about early humans, maybe Neanderthals, chanting in caves, using the natural acoustics, the reverberation.
The first sound manipulation.
Arguably. Fast forward millennia. Radio spreads jazz music across America, unexpectedly helping break down social and racial barriers.
And sonar.
Developed for detecting submarines in wartime, right?
Yeah.
But that technology, manipulating sound waves in water, it unexpectedly morphs into medical ultrasound.
Letting us see inside the body. Saving lives.
Hugely beneficial, but also raising really complex ethical questions around things like prenatal screening and even sex-selective abortions in some parts of the world. Unexpected ripples again.
Okay, cold sound. Any more?
Cleanliness. Starts with huge, ambitious projects, like Chicago literally jacking up the entire city in the 1850s to build a proper sewer system.
Raising the fitty. Wow.
Yeah, incredible feat.
Okay.
Or consider John Leal, a health official who, against massive opposition, daringly adds chlorine to Jersey City's water supply in 1908.
Risky move back then.
Hugely, but it works. Infant mortality plummets, and cleaner water enables things like public swimming pools, which bizarrely influences advertising around hygiene, even swimsuit fashion.
From sewers to swimwear. Okay.
And one more, time.
Time itself.
Well, our measurement of it. Galileo watches a swinging altar lamp in a cathedral, notices its regular rhythm.
Leads to a pendulum clock.
Right. Dramatically improving timekeeping precision, crucial for navigation, for science, and that quest for precision continues all the way to atomic clock.
Which are essential for.
GPS.
Yeah.
Your phone knows where you are because of incredibly accurate time signals from satellites enabled by atomic clocks, reshaping logistics, travel, everything.
And carbon dating. Also time-related.
Exactly. Using radioactive decay rates to measure deep time. It completely rewrote our understanding of prehistory, all from wanting to measure time more accurately.
So looking across all these examples, glass, cold, sound, clean, time, the pattern is clear.
We tend to focus on the single invention, the light bulb moment.
But the real story, the one our robot historian would focus on,
is the web. The intricate, unpredictable, often invisible web of connections that spreads out from that initial innovation, changing the world in ways nobody could have possibly foreseen.
it really makes you think.
It forces you to ask, doesn't it? What seemingly insignificant thing in your life right now? What everyday convenience? What little piece of tech?
Maybe quietly reshaping the world around us.
Yeah. What hidden hummingbird effects might it be setting in motion for the future right now under our noses?